Good evening, everyone. Um, I want to thank you all for coming, and I also want to recognize that we are streaming live on the government YouTube and Facebook channels, so I can understand if people have had a long day, would rather listen to the content or send questions via online platforms. I want to welcome you here today. This is a combined effort by myself and the Honorable Sabrina Turner, and hopes to give the community of the Georgetown and the Greater Cayman Islands an opportunity to hear from those who are responsible for crime control in the Cayman Islands, the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service. Today, we hope to speak about, unfortunately, the current spike in armed robberies, burglaries, and minor crimes, as well as community policing efforts, traffic concerns, and other things that may come up as we go through today's discussion. I want to encourage everybody, again, if you're watching for the first time, please go ahead and press the share button on YouTube or on Facebook. At this time, I'm going to invite the Honorable Minister Turner to say a few words, and then we're going to hand it over to Chief Inspector Brad to carry us to the discussion points today.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and for those of you who have taken time out of your busy schedule to join us here in person this afternoon, and definitely for those who are streaming live on YouTube, the importance of you showing up and us being conduits for this very important topic. I'd like to thank my honorable colleague and friend to look for having this whole vision and making sure that we show you, the people of the Cayman Islands, that we're not only hearing your plea, your concern, but we're acting as facilitators and why it's important to have meetings and audiences of this nature. For the people of Red Bay and Prospect and the greater Georgetown area, we know that crime is definitely on an increase. We're seeing the behaviors on our roads and especially on the Shamrock Road. Speed calming measures have been a big issue within the Red Bay and Prospect community. And I'm hoping that for those of you who are streaming this evening, you will share your concerns and direct them to the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service, or ask them right here if you are in the audience. Again, I want to thank my colleague and for everyone who've taken time out of their busy schedule this evening to be here. Without further ado, I'll turn it over to Chief Superintendent Brady Banks.
So sorry, I'm just going to intervene one quick second before we ask the police to take over. For those who are listening and viewing via social media, please don't be afraid to send your questions either on Facebook or on YouTube. We do have some of the committee members here tonight monitoring the comments and the questions. And after the police have delivered their remarks, we will try to select those ones that may have not been covered by their remarks. So please don't be afraid to leave a question in the comment section, either on YouTube or by Facebook.
Thank you. I want to take this opportunity to thank both ministers for inviting us here so we can give a situation report on the serious crime and what the RCIPS is doing to curtail these crimes. With me is Superintendent Roger Williams, who is in charge of uniform and special operations. And to his left is Inspector Yearwood, who is in charge of the community policing department. Good evening. Okay, there's no doubt that there is a uptick or increase in serious crime in the Cayman Islands, and more concerning crimes facilitated by unlicensed firearms, and in particular, robberies, which we have seen in the last few months. If I can give some stats, overall, there's been 47 firearm incidents across the Cayman Islands since the beginning of the year. Of those 47 firearm incidents, 31 of those were robberies, compared to last year, which was 15. So we see we have a 100% increase in firearm in robberies. Of those incidents, 24 have happened right here in Georgetown, but that includes firearm incidents, robberies, and robberies by bladed weapons, knives, etc. So the RCIPS has embarked upon a vigorous approach to addressing these concerns. We have enacted or focused our CTF or Crime Task Force to fully concentrate on this serious matter. Robberies, firearm incidents, as well as burglaries, but those two serious matters are really at the top of our list. So far, there has been 11 arrests for robberies. Out of those 11 arrests, 4 persons have been charged. That's for robberies across the Cayman Islands. Charged and remanded in custody. We also have a number of matters before the Office of the DPP for ruling, and we are confident that we will actually get a positive feedback, and additional charges will be laid against those persons who are also involved in robberies. So given those stats, I'll ask if there's any questions. If there's no questions, then I'll hand over to Superintendent Williams, who has more enacted our efforts in actually curtailing these robberies and what he has done to actually put things in place.
Good evening, all. Good evening, Cayman. In relation to the recent crime spike, Chief Superintendent Ebanks has raised and given the stats. So in response, what the RCIPS has done is given additional resources to several units. That would be our firearms units, our crime task force, our CID. Included in that, what we've also done is alter the times of certain departments, such as our community policing, giving out extra patrols. We recognize and look at trends and look at what nights are, the particular trends, and ensure that we have maximum resources at those times that we would consider the peak times. So as the Chief Superintendent said, we have arrested several persons and anticipating that there will be charges laid out. So during the evening time, which everyone can see from the reports, would be our main peak times as it relates to robberies specifically, you will see that there's an increased patrol in areas that we believe that would be considered vulnerable. You will see the officers out, uniformed officers, but also we will ensure that we have other elements of the RCIPS working alongside those uniformed officers. So firearms offenses certainly has caused everyone a concern, as stated earlier. However, we should also reaffirm that persons within or that have possession of firearms or have access to firearms, the punishment by law is very stringent. And you would see from a recent RCIPS press release, I believe it was 2 days ago, we have now started to ensure that we put out some of the convictions that are happening for these offenses to ensure that not only the general public, but also persons that would be minded to possess a firearm or conduct a robbery understand the gravity of the situation and the impact that it could have on themselves and certainly the Cayman Islands. So as an example, 2 persons were sentenced just recently, one for 11 years, 6 months, and another for 10 years. All right, and those are some of the consequences for possessing firearms within the Cayman Islands. We do have a mandatory minimum, which is 10 years, and we are ensuring that we're putting the best foot forward to ensure that we get persons behind bars and investigate the matters accordingly. So from an entire RCIPS perspective, we are ensuring that we are putting the effort. We had over the last weekend several operations, and a big thing that we're pushing for at this time is also looking at the drugs within our community. So we had a drug operation over the weekend, and several items of illegal control substances were found, and persons were dealt with accordingly. In addition to that, we're also working with work and also CBC, because a large part of the problem that we have is also persons working without or outside of their parameters in terms of work permits and various other assets. So over the last 3 weeks, we have actually assisted in getting 5 persons off of the island that doesn't need to be here. And I'll be straight up with that. And that's part of what we actually need to do, as an organization, RCIPS, but as law enforcement entities, which is work, CBC, across the island. I'll just hand over to my colleague shortly to just specifically focus on Inspector Yearwood on the CPD efforts and more the actions that we've taken within our communities, such as Windsor Park and a few of the other areas that we have been in more recently. Thank you.
Good evening to all. As it relates to the CPD or the Community Policing Department, in recent times, we have been targeting, or rather, we have been looking at areas as it relates to drugs. We have made a number of arrests as highlighted by the superintendent. And we are looking at working with other agencies, because when we look at just drugs, we can't just look at enforcing our way out of it. We also have to look at other alternatives that we can use in terms of trying to get persons to move the other way. In terms of some of the issues, I can speak about some of the issues in Windsor Park. And this is where the community, let's be frank, is bursting at the seams, and parking is becoming an issue. So we are looking at how we are going to curtail this. We've been doing some door-to-doors to persons, and to be quite frank, we are letting you know, look, you need to find somewhere else to park before it gets to the issuing of tickets. As it relates to other areas, we are very, very heavily looking at the Washington Boulevard area as well. And there are some antisocial issues going on. And like I said, we are working with other agencies to see how we can either eliminate or mitigate these areas. As the night goes on, I will speak on other trends and other areas that we are covering as it relates to the Community Policing Department. I'll turn it back over to the Chief Superintendent. The Minister actually wishes to say some words.
Yes, just a quick reminder, as we are seeing the social media platforms starting to increase in numbers, which we're happy about. That means we are getting out to more and more persons. So we thank the viewing audience online. We now also understand that we are streaming live on Radio Cayman. We ask those who are on social media, whether it be YouTube or Facebook, to go ahead and please press the share button so that everybody across our 3 islands can get the opportunity to hear what is being said. Don't forget to leave your questions or comments, as when we get to that point of questions, we will be happy to take those or give those to the police so you can hear the responses. Mr. Yearwood, I guess with the simple wrap-up already started, Maybe we can introduce some of the community officers that are here so that the public can see that there is a large contingent of officers here today showing the commitment of the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service to this very important matter.
Good evening, all. I'm Senior Police Constable Michael Peart. My beat is Central Georgetown.
Good evening, everyone. My name is PC Cadane Hall. My beat is Beat 7, which includes Windsor Park, Walkers Road, Fairbanks, and all the different communities in wards of there.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sergeant Pompey. I'm the supervisor in Georgetown for our Community Policing Department. Some of the officers here come under my command. And apart from the community police officers, we also have the community safety officer. So I'll get him to introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Asher Moore. I'm on the community safety officer for Georgetown, covering the Windsor Park into Washington Boulevard as well. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I am PC 421 Byron Morgan. I hold the responsibility for the beat 8 and also assist with the other beats that take me all the way back to the airport. So you'll see a lot of me every day. Thank you.
Evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is PC 235 Donville Myers, School Resource Officer, adjoined to Community Police Department.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Christopher Donaldson, Police Sergeant. I'm the supervisor for the Eastern Districts. I'm just here to support the Georgetown officers.
All right, with that in mind, I want to say thank you so much to the officers for coming out. Before we go to social media in respect to questions, is there any questions from the members in the audience today that would like to ask the representatives for the RCAPS? Don't be afraid. This is the time. This is a serious matter, and we made sure to make them available. If you have a question, just raise your hand. Shana, you want to come take one of the mics or somebody? No, the public needs to hear for the contact perspective. So, okay, just for the listening audience, the question was, what is the role of the community safety officers?
Okay, so the community safety officer is a support person to assist in the community. For example, Mr. Moore is not exactly a police officer, but he is there to assist in areas identifying where we have needs, the same way that we would have a beat officer. So when he identifies these needs in the districts, he will then put it on to, he would make me aware as well as communicate with the beat officer responsible for that area. So he's there to assist the beat officer. Yes, it is a full-time, currently it is a full-time job, yes. Just to make you aware, we will be sending out applications very shortly to fill some posts as it relates to some more community safety officers. We presently have 6 vacancies.
Okay, so for everyone that are listening online, there's job opportunities at the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service at the moment for community safety officers. So if you're interested in doing what we all want, which is protecting our communities, maybe it'd be a great career to start in. Unless there's other questions in the audience, we could take some questions from online that I've seen come in so far, but I want to give that first opportunity to those who are in the audience. All right, well, while we build up our braveries, I'll go to one of the questions I saw online. What can homeowners and business owners do to protect themselves from crime? What can homeowners and business owners do to protect themselves from crime?
Thanks for your question. Online, we have a program at present with the RCIPS. It's a crime prevention program that's facilitated by myself and Sergeant Donaldson. Actually, today we were doing a workshop with a business company today. And it's a series of programs. So if you are interested as a business owner, yes, we are willing to do that aspect for you. For the residential side, we do have the community officers who comes out every day with tips and information on crime prevention. After the meeting, if you want to speak with me, we can talk about crime prevention because that's a passion for me.
Officer Pompey, if I could just ask, just for those who may not be able to ask follow-up questions in that area online, if somebody who is listening on social media want to get in contact with their community officer, is there a telephone number or an email address that they can use to reach out to get to know their officers in their communities, whether it's Georgetown East, West, South, North, or even in Cayman Brac?
I guess they're going to probably have to start taking their pen and pencils out. RCIPS supervisor at rcips.ky. RCIPS CPD supervisors at rcips.ky. I'm not sure if you're going to put it up on the screen. RCIPS CPD supervisors at rcips.ky. Or you can call 949-4222. The extension you're going to get me is extension 3005. 3005 extension.
Thank you, Officer Pompey. Before, there is one more I have, and my team, if you have any other questions coming in, please, you can make them forward up to the stand. Is there any questions in the audience? We do have one.
Minister,
Mr.
if
Silver?
I could just add to Sergeant Pompey's answer just before you go. My name is Jody Ann Powery. I'm the police media officer with the RCIPS. I work with the Media and Communications Unit. But in addition to getting in contact with your CPD officers in your beats, you can also visit our website, rcips.ky. We have crime prevention tips posted both for businesses and for homeowners on the website, rcips.ky. And we do also encourage everyone to download the mobile app. In addition to those crime prevention tips, you also get our press releases that are sent out daily, instantly, once they're posted.
We just saw another message come in saying, for those community officer job openings, what is the age range?
So it starts from age 18, and it's community safety officers, not police officers, but right now there's 6 vacancies for community safety officers, and starting from age 18.
Okay, we have.
So the ending age is 40.
All right. We do have another question coming in from social media. Do you think that there should be a gun amnesty? Do you think that there should be a gun amnesty? Mr. Silver, I saw you. I apologize. I forgot. So after they answer this, we'll ask you to come up and ask the question. Gun amnesty question.
Yes, thanks for the question. Gun amnesty are always beneficial. Um, the last one we had, I can't give you the stats or the figures at this time, but we did get quite a bit of ammunition and firearms that were handed in. Unfortunately, those were sort of old firearms and firearms that were not wanted by persons who actually were not intending to use their firearms anymore. So we're thankful for all the firearms that we get during an amnesty, but what our focus is really and truly is getting those illegal firearms off our streets that people are actually using to commit crimes. But yes, we will consider firearm amnesty. Like as I said, any firearm off the street and in our possession is good.
We do have a question from one of the members in the audience. Turn the mic on.
My question is that I'm a frequent listener to Cayman Mall Road, and a lot of information seemingly come through that avenue. I'm wondering if there's any collaboration with that platform.
Good night. Thank you for the question. I'm actually one of the persons who is responsible for our social media platforms, in addition to all the other information that's put out from the service to the public. We have in the past had interviews with Cayman Mall Road, and when we are invited to attend, we make an effort to do so. We communicate regularly with all the media houses on the Cayman Islands, whether through our press releases as well as through press queries that are frequently asked to our unit. Additionally, we do also try to extend our reach to the listening public and the general public. And so we've done things like just last weekend, it was KMAS, and we've had added ads to Everything 345, which is a social media platform on Instagram, just to get to get to a target audience and get a certain message across. So we do consider all media, and we attend whenever we are invited to.
Okay, so let me try to see if I can answer your question for you. Okay, the RCIPs or any law enforcement agency are guided by what we should put out or what we can put out and what we, in a timely fashion. But we have to think court, yes, at the end of the day. And certain things that we release can compromise the investigation if we do so. The investigation and witnesses, so we have to be very, very careful what we release and when we release it. So now what I can say that we have been able to work around some media platforms. And when I say that, they have become beneficial. At the same time, it does cause some concerns as well. But we work with the current climate. I hope that answers your question, sir. Okay.
I want to say again, thank everybody for coming out tonight. This is going well so far in respect to the content information. I just want us to be mindful to, if you do have a question, so everybody can hear, not only those in the room, just be patient so we can get the mic so that those on social media and YouTube and Facebook can hear. It's very important. We do have a number of questions that have come in. I'm going to Oh, yeah, Minister Turner has a question.
Yes, I have a question that came in via YouTube, and I'll read. With the high rise in crime, can pepper spray and tasers be made legal for persons to protect themselves? And if not, then how should the regular person protect themselves in a case of an attempt robbery? Is it possible to enforce a more strict Marine police to patrol at night? Because they're pretty sure guns don't, just spawn on the ground in the Cayman Islands. And if we can stop it, we can avoid certain crimes and crime won't rise.
Right. Okay, to answer the first question as it relates to the pepper spray and other mediums that they want to use, it is not legal and it's not permitted at this time. But in a robbery, let's be quite honest and frank. Do you want to, under those circumstances, have a confrontation with the person who is attacking, with your attacker at that time? Our advice to you would be to be very compliant. You stand a better chance of your own safety than trying to antagonize the situation and can make it worse off for yourself. That would be my answer to that question.
Superintendent Brad, if you want to add to that. If not, we can move on to the next question. Is that okay? Okay. We do have one from the audience. Before we go to two others we have via social media.
Good evening, panel. My question is, I'm aware that we used to have officers or beat officers on feet in our communities, which at that time, we wasn't having the amount of crime that we're having now. Why was the officers removed, and how can we have them back on feet in our communities?
So at present, you are correct. We are short, and it's part of our strategy or our planning for 2024 or before that to recruit. Currently, we have a recruit class that will be starting in 2 weeks, and it's the intention of us as the senior command team to ensure that community policing is bolstered, because at present, we are at least 13 officers short on community policing, and that for me, and we spoke, that for me is a passion and a priority for us. At present, the officers that you see here represent most of the beats that they can handle, and a lot of the times when an officer has to take his or her rest day or go on their leave, that beat then doesn't see the presence that it would see on a normal basis. So, these officers here have been working some long hours. They accept phone calls out of hours, and we push them and we ask for more. However, we have to support them with more resources. And I think from a senior command perspective, you are 100% correct. CPD as a unit certainly needs more, and we're going to certainly put more in there.
I just want to say, to remind those who are watching social media, I have to do this constantly because it helps us get our numbers up. If you're watching via Facebook or via YouTube, please press the share button so that those persons on your platform can have access to it. And before I move on to something similar to that in respect of question, Officer Brad, you had anything to add?
I just wanted to add to Superintendent Williams' comments there. Our idea or our objective is to actually put two officers on each beat, and they can actually not only rotate shifts, but when one officer is off on leave, you still have that officer on the beat. So we are cognizant that we are short, and the community should be seeing more officers, but we have a plan in place that should suffice your concerns. Thanks.
All right, I'm going to throw two questions out because they may fall in different offices, and then they can prepare the answers. One is, what are the qualifications for those positions? And when that question came in, I think they were talking about the community safety officers, those positions that were out for tender. The next question is, what is the profile of those arrests thus far, and where are they from a particular district, nationality, unemployment, previous criminal record, etc.? That's a pretty detailed question. I'm not sure how much they can say, but I'm just reading what we are getting.
So I'll answer this yes. So the requirement is for a high school certificate. That is the basic requirement, the minimum requirement. And then you will undergo training as the needs arise.
Okay, thanks. That process is I would say, a pretty significant process as well. You apply for the position, and then you go through an interview process, and then you go through 2 weeks of training, which is facilitated by our Sergeant Pompey and Sergeant Donaldson as well. So, but just to say a little bit more on the community safety officers, they work alongside of our community beat officers to sort of bridge that gap, not only support, but bridge that gap with the community as well. So just to identify any safety concerns within the community, and they could vary in a number of ways. The vulnerable persons that we are concerned about, road safety, traffic issues, anything that causes a concern or safety to our communities. Those safety officers are responsible for bringing them to the attention, those things to the attention of the community officer, and they can work with, say, CUC or NRA to address those problems. And then the second question was about the demographics of those arrested, and while I won't call any particular nationality, I can say that 8 of those persons were local persons, and 3 were from another jurisdiction.
All right. I'm not pressuring you to answer. If you can't answer because of security reasons, it's totally understandable. But just to give you the other components of the question was, what is the profile of those arrested thus far? Are they from a particular district, nationality, unemployment, previous criminal record? So if you can't answer it, I don't want to feel like I'm pushing you to do so, but just say that so the person feel that they are getting the question answered.
I think we'll just leave it as...
Okay, leave it as is.
Yes.
All right, but before we go back to social media, is there anybody in the audience that has a question? Minister Turner?
Yes, I do. Another one from YouTube. Can there be more police presence in regards to more patrols all over the island? It would be a good idea to inform businesses on how to protect their property and their workers. That's one.
Yep. Thank you for the question, Minister. Certainly, that's my intent as a new superintendent in charge of uniform. And one of my priorities is ensuring that we get our systems and processes right as part of our organization to ensure we maximize the use of our staff. I think certainly we have done our best to ensure we are visible in the community. However, let me just reiterate something, and this is the approach and how we should be moving. It is not just an RCIPS. We have to look at it as an entire country, but also multi-agency. The RCIPS, let me just give you an example, responds to 35,000 calls every year. 35,000. I picked out as an example one particular report that we go to, and it's alarms. Since this year, we have gone to 1,146 alarms. Now, those alarms are all tied to companies which charge those businesses for a response. But who responds? The RCIPS. That is 1,146 times a patrol car went somewhere that another person is paying for. Those are the things that are causing us not to be able to streamline and ensure that we have dedicated patrols. And those are some of the things that we as an organization have to speak to the private sector and also our partners within government to ensure that we start to streamline processes, that we're not. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't go to alarm, please. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is those 1,146 times didn't result in a crime. It's all false alarms. So what I'm trying to say is that 1,146 not necessarily wasted police resources, but it diverted it from where you would have seen them within the community. That is just one example of many. So it is my strategic plan and Chief Soup to ensure that we look at the holistic picture and pick out things just like the alarm issue, and we start to streamline where we go and what we actually do so we can maximize what you, the community, will benefit from the RCIPS.
I just want to say that was a very interesting stat that I didn't know as a minister, and I'm certain that that's not how it applies in other jurisdictions whereby the alarm system responds directly to the police. Otherwise, all your resources would be taken up. And there's a broader question that I'm probably not going to do live on stream, but as policy makers, we have to start to analyze the effect on that on the resources that we do have. Minister Turner?
Yes. Speeding in the Prospect, especially on the Shamrock Road, Spot Street as we know it, has been a huge concern. The residents of the Prospect Red Bay District are pleading for some speed control measures to be implemented on that road. Is there any update that can be provided at this time? There has been a poll, there has been a group that has been very active in getting that piece of road addressed when it comes to speed calming measures. And follow up to that, can Prospect get more police patrols in the area?
All righty. So I'll address the traffic and roads policing. So as of year to date, we have prosecuted over 5,592 persons for various offenses. When we break it down in the Georgetown district, it's 1,351 prosecutions for speedings alone. When we break it down to Shamrock Road, it is over 500 tickets issued, and that's year to date. So when we look at traffic, we have to ask ourselves, not only as a community, but the drivers, everybody is a driver. And we need to ensure that, one, if you're educated here in terms of driving, you obviously understand the road code and how the system here. But if you're also coming here as a new driver to the country, you also respect the road rules and what the driving within the Cayman Islands is like. And I think a big part of it is that we have various driving cultures. That is a fact. And a lot of the times we look at it, it's just poor driving from various jurisdictions. And yes, our own as well, we're not going to absolve. But at the end of the day, it's simply just poor driving practices. So at one of the meetings that we recently attended with our colleagues and partner agencies, speed cameras and speed system was a discussion. That is for another agency, which is the Home Affairs agency. And they will be looking at, I'm almost certain. Thank you. All right, sorry, Minister. However, we are working with our partner agency of Home Affairs to develop that system. And specifically, we discussed testing the system because our biggest and highest speeds are between Spots Dock or Spots Public Beach and down to Chrissy Tomlinson roundabout. That is where some of the most ridiculous speeds have been recorded and where most of our prosecutions have been. So and you start to see us down there, yep. Yeah. Right, thank you. So when you look at Shamrock Road, one of the plans that we have for all is to use the testing, the speed system on that as a kind of a testing, a pilot run, because there's a lot of infrastructure, and I won't speak for the other agency, but from a policing perspective, there is a lot of infrastructure that would have to be put in place from the time of recording speed, getting that information to the police, the prosecution, sending out the information. And I'll just make one plea here, because this is a big Achilles heel, not only for the RCIPS, but generally for the judiciary. When persons sell vehicles, please ensure it is transferred. Please. The RCIPS is begging you. A lot of the times, we are prosecuting people that have not been in the Cayman Islands for the last 15, 20 years, right? Because the vehicle has been sold 100 times over. So, yeah. Well, thank you. So we have prosecuted people, and when we've checked the immigration database, they haven't been here in years, right? That, for us, is a problem, because when someone uses that vehicle to commit a crime, do a road traffic offense, you then have to do extra investigative skill or investigations to find who the actual driver was. And again, we have evidential thresholds when it comes to court, and then it makes it very difficult. So I'll just leave it there.
I want to thank you for that. I want to remind again, Officer Brad, you want to add on to that before we go?
Okay. I just want to send a plea to the minister as well, Minister Turner. We know that that specific area of the Spot Street is very, very difficult to actually set up a speed check because of how the road is designed. So I was wondering if, yes, there's no shoulder. So I was wondering in your ministry if you could actually have NRA design just a section of that road that we can actually pull off, maybe where the ocean, where was it? Yes, Mariners Cove. If you could, yes, if you could probably have NRA, work with NRA and give us a section of road there, we can actually fulfill that. Yes, yes. Okay, thanks.
All right. Thank you, Officer Brad. We do have two questions in the audience, and we're going to go to them. I just want to remind those who are listening and viewing via social media on Facebook and YouTube, please press the share button so all persons can get the opportunity to hear what is presented this evening. I want to thank all the officers who are here as well. We're going to go to Mr. Sullivan for his first question. Can you make sure he speaks into the mic?
Good evening, everyone. I live in the Prospect area, Prospect Drive, down in Bonneville Estate. And we have a serious problem that I've always complained about. It's the overtaking of traffic by the Red Bay Primary School. In the mornings especially, when we are coming down for work. Lately, I've been coming out a little bit later, but I know they used to have an officer. Posted there in the mornings. When there is no officer there, it is a chaos. People just overtaken, and it's most of the people coming from the eastern districts. The people are overtaken trying to cut. Remember now they put a stop sign when you come out the Red Bay Primary for them people to come through. They are not even stopping there anymore. They just drive and come straight through. And the preschool achievement center, they are cutting through, they are taking head, everybody are staying in line, and they are cutting through and overtaking all the cars that are in line to go to your left. And they're overtaken to cut through by where the stop sign is. The buses are big culprits of that. So I beg over and over, me and another lady, we've been very boisterous about it. And we beg to have an officer there in the morning because my fear is that someone is going to get hurt there. And whether it be a car with a school child in it, someone is definitely going to get hurt there if they don't have or keep an officer there. I know that you guys are extremely busy, but this is one of the places that we need an officer until better can be done.
Okay, thank you very much. Public safety is always our greatest concern. When you mention buses, are you referring to public transport buses? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have another question in respect to traffic. It says, when or what can be done about the persons using Savannah Meadows to cut through traffic, especially when there are speeding in residential areas? I just want to give the opportunity to have the comments read. If there is not a specific answer, then I totally understand, but to make sure that the listening audience is knowing that we're paying attention to it. One more comment that I think, more a comment than a question. It says, all government boat launching ramps should have government CCTV cameras with license plate readers to further assess and reduction of crime. I'm assuming that that is in relation to any kind of importation of drugs or anything by boat. So I'll pose these two questions and then go back to the audience. Why are persons given bail with no house arrest or ankle bracelets only to be given bail to go on the street again? I'm not sure if there are technically questions, but more comments, but I do think that we have.
Minister, I know you're reading the comments in order to get a feedback, but in regards to the CCTVs and license plate readers for the various launching ramps, just this week we discussed that, and that is in the initiative of broadening CCTV coverage throughout the island, and more coverage of these locations, which is in the public's domain already. We're just expanding the coverage island-wide, is actually in the works right now under the Ministry of Home Affairs in collaboration with 911 and NRA. So we're expanding the CCTV coverage island-wide based on funds that were taken from a line item of, I think that was some of the capital projects. We've expanded the CCTV coverage. That project is actually ongoing as we speak.
Okay, again, I just want to say thanks again to those who are listening. But that's a good question, to confirm that they're working.
Yeah. Well, if
well, we're gonna answer the question now, sir. So
yes.
So it's a good question. So it's a legitimate question. Okay. 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 Minister?
Based on the results gotten back, this came up as a big concern in the sister islands, especially in Cayman Brac. And after research was done, there was one camera that was not working, but it was not for the time that it was stated it wasn't working. From what I have been told as the Minister of Home Affairs, all of those issues have been addressed, concerns and gaps that are in the system, which is why we have provided additional funding to expand our coverage, is now a project that is on its way. 911 in collaboration with police and the NRA, they're joint, yes, and I can assure you, you will get updates. I will give this country my word that I will inform you based on the information is made available to me as your minister in keeping the country abreast of all of the coverage that is given as it comes to light. You're welcome, sir.
Again, I want to thank everybody for being here tonight and those who are listening via radio and social media. On YouTube and Facebook, please feel free to send your questions in as we're monitoring the comments to be able to respond to you. We have a question in the audience. Hold on for a second.
My piece on the CCTVs, they're working, but I have noticed one of our main drug areas in Georgetown, the top of Macfield Lane has one. And all the drugs that are over on that side are not detected. Can you say why is that not being detected if the CTV is working? Also, as a member of the Beautification Task Force Board, we have been, at least I personally have suggested with the vehicles that are not transferred, and we find these derelict vehicles about the place. Why can't a memo or notice go to license department and be at license department for whenever the person that the vehicle is registered to comes to relicense the vehicle or to renew their driver's license, charge for these derelict vehicles? Main reason is that I have worked very closely along with DEH on removing derelict vehicles from Crown properties, from out of our streets in our communities, and not one was charged. Not one person was charged. That's a lot of loss in revenue. You understand? So I want to know, why can't that ministers make that extra step to say, even if you have to implement it in the law, how can you guys collaborate with DCI? I'm not DCI, with the driver's license, and work through there to get people on dumping these derelict vehicles about our streets and charge them. That would also send a message. You sell a vehicle, get it out of your name.
So I can say we agree with you, but I will say that for every vehicle that is registered on the road, you pay a disposal fee. Oh, all right, so yes, and that's why I started by saying I agree with you totally on that. And if I have been made aware, we've made you aware that a number of vehicles have been tagged. We are working with another agency in actually trying to get those vehicles removed, and due to some shortages of equipment being available to do those removals, we've had to wait. So we've been set back a bit as we await the equipment to be used to remove some of these vehicles, but we are working at removing some of these vehicles. Go ahead, ma'am.
I've been asking Mr. Sims, how about he only have one equipment according to him. I did wrote an email to the minister, Minister Turner, requesting equipment for DEH, and it was supposed to come from 2022, but it hasn't arrived as yet. But if so be they only have one vehicle, how about reaching out to local help to pick up these tow trucks or other grab trucks to pick up these derelict vehicles from about the place and to dump them? And each one, again, should be charged. They should be charged for dumping these derelict vehicles on our streets. Charge them, then it needs to start, unless it will never, never stop. We have to stop somewhere and start to charge. You understand? Because then, God knows I am tired of going around with DEH tagging. And as soon as the DEH put the sticker on there, people come and scrap them and make it look 10 times worse. But then what I will suggest, I have been suggesting through the BTF, hire local tow trucks, hire local grab trucks to help DEH get the vehicles moved, and it has fallen on deaf ears.
No, in addition to this, we have got to look at the capacity of storage at the landfill. Let's be honest as well. We've got to look at we've got to look also at that the capacity there and the safety of. We are quite aware of the fires that occur there, and we've got to be very careful. Pardon me? 15 a day, correct? Yeah, a day. Yeah, 15. No, and that's 15 cars. 15 cars per day, right? Now, as the superintendent pointed out earlier about the appeal to have persons transfer vehicles. Your question comes under that same heading. We've got, the superintendent pointed out where we've got persons who have left the Cayman Islands now some 15 years and still are listed as a registered owner of the vehicle just because the vehicle was not transferred.
I'll also just, and perhaps this is something for legislative change, and I'll appeal for the minister's ear on this one. But you also have to look at what the traffic law says when it comes to transfer of vehicles, because again, we got to work with what the law says. The law says a notification is to be given to licensed department. It didn't say that you had to sign it over or to transfer it. What does a notification mean? And I can tell you because I fell victim to that myself. So a notification means you go to licensing department and you sign it in the presence of a person. So we can say, yep, the vehicles, the registered owner should be prosecuted. But in a lot of cases that we actually look at, when we do find a registered owner, they have a copy of the signed version that they would have brought to licensing. And that therein is some of the reasons why prosecutions are not where they're supposed to be. But I agree with you. It is, again, a total system, not only the RCIPS, but DVLS and DEH to work together. And I'm 100% sure we can get that coordination.
I just want to say that though some of the comments made tonight are not necessarily answerable, I want you to know there's a reason why myself and the Minister Turner is up here. We are definitely taking our notes in respect to the concerns, and then we can take it back to our government members as to what the will of the people are. So with that being said, we have a question from the audience. Mr. Denny.
Good evening. Before I get to my question regarding this thing about the transfer, I think that could be a simple amendment that says that you give notice of transfer to be completed within 72 hours, as an example. Mr. Yearwood, I heard you discourage people from defending themselves when the question of mace and pepper spray was brought up. I take that to mean that you would not support amending the law to allow people to defend themselves with such devices. I recall a vicious crime that was committed in the past, and the court case showed that when the female did every single thing that she was asked to do by her kidnappers, they raped her, murdered her, and set her on fire. I disagree vehemently with the idea that people should sit back and not defend themselves. Now, I understand why one would want to be cautious, would want to not be overzealous in doing things in a reckless way. I understand that very clearly. But I do not like the idea that people are being discouraged from defending themselves, because the history of criminals is that they do not care what the law says. No criminal gets up and says, you know what? I can't rob this place. That would be a crime. No, 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 no. They have a disregard for law and order. And let me tell you something else. Section 18(1)(a) of the Firearms Act says, no person shall discharge any firearm within 40 yards of any public road or in any public place, except in the lawful protection of their person or property, or the person or property of some other person. In other words, in existing law, people who lawfully own firearms, and that's the key word, lawfully, can defend themselves against crimes. Okay? Crime is a business. And just like in business, they use taxation to discourage certain behaviors. In crime, force is the taxation on crime. It's how you discourage it. Now, we're not ever going to get to a point in our history in which we will totally eliminate crime. That's not going to happen. But what we can do is we can really discourage it. Because if someone, you see, I've heard people who disagree with me say things like this. Well, you would shoot somebody for $40? No, I wouldn't shoot them for $40. What I would shoot them for is if they come in with reckless disregard, put a gun in my face, that they're violating all of my rights at that point. They're saying they're willing to destroy me. And it's that reckless disregard for human life is why they should be resisted. Not for the $40 that they're going to steal. All right? And they have to be discouraged, otherwise it will get worse. I hear people speak as if the level of crime that we have in Cayman is just totally out of control. I understand why people feel that that's the case, because relatively speaking, that's the experience. But if you compare us to other places, we're a child's birthday party when it comes to crime. But it will get worse if we don't intervene. Now, that doesn't mean that the things that I've heard the officers say tonight are not important. They are. But prevention is, there's an element of prevention that police officers cannot do. And that is, sometimes a person has to survive the attack before they can call for help. Okay? And in those instances, I think that the RCIPS should be willing to recommend to ministers of government to modify the law so that people can have mace, pepper spray, which are less lethal than other devices that people use. Because the instances in which crime take place are not just robberies. There are other types of crime outside of a business. Somebody on the street, in their home invasions. Some things that may not require lethal force. And if you don't have to use lethal force, then don't use lethal force. But that decision can only be made by the person in the moment who is being attacked and have an option. Because if I listen to what you've said, basically the person would not have an option. You're saying, just do whatever they say. That's putting, people are putting their lives at the mercy of criminals. And I don't agree with that.
I can thank you for that. And I will say, let's look at this. My answer was as it related to robberies. So my view is that you don't want to go with the mace at person who has a firearm pointed at you.
I agree with you on that point. But the section of the firearms law that I just quoted gives a person a right to defend themselves with a lawful firearm. If someone wants to have a firearm to defend themselves, is the RCIPS going to say no because they feel it's too risky? Or are they going to allow the person to have the means to defend themselves? Because the law currently allows it. And as you've said earlier, you guys need to act in accordance with what the law is. And what I'm not interested in hearing is what our officers' opinions are about what the law should say. The law allows us to defend ourselves.
All right, thank you very much for that. My understanding from Inspector Yearwood's answer was that if you find yourself in that situation where you're being robbed with, by someone with a firearm or a bladed weapon, do not put your life at risk. Yeah? Whether it's $100, $1,000, $10,000 is not worth your life to resist that person and cause that person to cause you fatal harm. That was my understanding from his. I'm not sure how he came across to the audience, but.
I think that's a legitimate summary of what was said. I think, though, based on the response I saw from the audience with that resounding clap, is that there needs to be an analysis on the public's position on that. Because I must admit with Dene that the British system has never been one of arms. It's just naturally not that way. And we're not going to get that advice from our Royal Cayman Islands Police Service, which is headed up by the governor's office, which is constitutionally mandated. But I agree. And Denny's just suggesting, for those who are listening, that the law currently allows somebody to defend themselves if you happen to get a license in the first place, which I think he's inferring, well, if somebody who has a license to defend themselves, what about the common person who doesn't have a license should be able to defend themselves? And that's why I say to you that there's legitimate reason for discussion amongst the lawmakers, which the police officers will carry out the law. So I'm certain that my colleagues and my colleague here understand we're all going to take notes and have further discussions. But I want to get to some of those other questions that were sent in so we don't consume the whole thing with comments rather than questions. One of the questions that came in is, get the vehicles out of the road so fire department and ambulance and crews can pass, fine them for being parked in the roadway and ticket them. Another one that came in is, can you check the police station, the West Bay Police Station, for cameras? I don't know what that means, but I'm assuming that this person must have some insight in respect to that, but we wouldn't want the police station not to have their cameras. Another one, can the MLAs work hand in hand with their beat officers and planning departments to get all communities with CCTV and more lighting on CUC poles? Another one that came in, can police be posted at each government and private schools when the school semester starts back, please? There are a lot of persons who don't adhere to slowing down when it comes to those school areas. Unless there's another question in the audience, I'll ask my colleague minister, is there any questions you have? Yes. Oh, we do have one question in the back. Can we allow the minister to answer with that mic while we get this mic down to Mr. Adam? Please bear in mind the camera is in the middle of the... Walk on the sides for me. Come this way, this way, this way.
Okay, the YouTube is a follow-up question. There were community police present at one point in Savannah Meadows, and the traffic through the residential area has stopped. But since then, it has increased again. This has to stop as they have kids who play in the evenings in the residential area of Savannah and persons walking or jogging, etc.
All right, to answer the question from the Savannah Meadows community member, reason why we had to slow down is because of the lack of resources. And the senior officers would have already said that their plans are in the making to have more officers on the ground. What we can do is to make periodical checks in that community to minimize the number of vehicles and the erratic driving in that space.
Thank you very much. I have a question regarding the statistics as to attention, because I heard very good, encouraging word about streamlining things and acting on the basis of the intelligence of what you're doing and what can be done better. Do you have, or can we get a statistic as to how much of the RCIPS and perhaps the Coast Guard time, attention, resources, man hours, personnel are expended on prosecuting drug-related crimes? And I ask that because I have a follow-up.
Just let me just make sure that we have the clarity to your question, because I think it's an awesome one. Are you talking about drug-related crimes as opposed to any other crime? What is the ratio amongst the 100% of time focus? How much is it for drug-related? How much is for burglaries? How much is for financial crimes? Are you trying to put it in categories to see what percentage it is?
Well, my primary focus is, yes, there are all these different percentages. What's a percentage for drug crime? I agree with you. You know, the different things that the RCIPS is attending to and the Coast Guard are attending to. What percentage of that is handling, dealing, responding to drug offenses or reports of drug offenses or prosecuting drug offenses?
Okay, thanks. Mr. Addo, I don't have the statistics on the length of time or the amount of time that we have allocated or had to allocate to those offenses. What I can say is that according to our stats for 2022, the RCIPS has seized, between the RCIPS and the Coast Guard, seized $4 million worth of illegal drugs that has come into the Cayman Islands. That is either by what is on island or what is entering, attempting to enter our shores. So it's $4 million worth of drugs. That's ganja, cocaine, and we've had the introduction now of fentanyl, methamphetamine, and the whole works. So we're not only looking now at cocaine and ganja, but we have some new drugs being introduced into our communities as well.
Okay, well, may I suggest that it'll be good if an analysis can be done of how much of the RCIPS time and attention now is expended on that. And I say that for a couple of reasons. One is that if we want to interdict drugs coming to the Cayman Islands through what the word on the street is that they come through our sea borders. They come in by sea. There are technologies that are available. They're used in the Bahamas. They're used in Cudjoe Key in the Florida Keys using aerostats. It's like a blimp, but the blimp is equipped. It's tethered and is equipped with imaging equipment, and it enables the various enforcement arms to have early warning of, let's say, a vessel coming, and they can be investigated and dealt with if they need to be dealt with. So there's technologies that can help with that. We have what is typically mentioned, approximately 100 miles of coastline in Grand Cayman, and we have obviously miles of coastline in the sister islands to defend. But there are much more efficient ways to defend it than just, you know, putting a bunch of boats out there trying to find people. These technologies exist. As I say, probably the best one to look at would be the ones that is used in the Bahamas. That's one. The second thing is I'm really concerned that a lot of police time and attention is being expended on something that has been researched and proven to be a futile exercise. The Global Commission on Drug Policy published its first report in 2011, And they have published a report every year since then. It's very readable, very well researched. When you look at the caliber of the people involved in that, these are people who can speak with authority and with experience and with a ton of wisdom. And basically what they have said is that the war on drugs is a failed policy. But that doesn't mean we should just ignore the issues and the scourge of drugs. But continuing doing what we have been doing with the drugs issue here, we are not taking advantage of a wealth of knowledge as to how to address that. And just trying to prevent the drugs coming in, just trying to prosecute people who are using it recreationally. It is wasting time and attention, and it's criminalizing people who don't need to be criminalized. There are just so many impacts of that, and it's taking your time and attention, the RCIPS and the Coast Guard, which I believe it falls on the RCIPS. Time and attention, if only this were addressed in a more effective manner. And there have been examples now, and these people have been studying since 2011. They've been studying this and reporting on it. There's reams of data and statistics and proposals for how we need to change drug policies. It's available, it's online. I encourage all the policymakers, because this is a matter of national policy. This is a matter of legislation as well as enforcement arms, looking at it and saying, wow, that's a great idea, why don't we pursue that? So I would implore the two of our members of parliament who are here tonight, thank you very much for spending the time on this, and to get your colleagues wrapped around this issue. And let's get the police focused on the crimes that really have to be addressed the way they're being addressed, and quit doing the things that are proven to be ineffective and are not dealing with the issue that is really at stake. And in essence, the abuse of drugs is a public health problem. It's devastating. But if you're criminalizing people because of recreational use of drugs, there's ample evidence that we're wasting our time. So, thanks.
Mr. Adam, thank you so much for that summary. This platform is not only about particularly getting a specific answer to a question, but to voice your concerns so we as legislators can hear you. Because I can promise you, we do monitor comments on social media and so forth. So we are doing some of serious conversations, particularly in respect to our budgets that will affect the police in a positive way or in a negative way. And we're also considering a number of legislation. You may be aware that the government at early part of our administration talked about the decriminalization of marijuana consumption. It's a very problematic set of legislation to create, because there's 50,000 different variables of how you can create that. But I think what you will find is that there's appetite for dialogue as to what is the solution. And I agree with you that we need to have a more mature conversation about the consumption of a self-inflicted crime, if we dare say that. We do have another question, and I want us to be mindful. We are going to wrap it up at 9 o'clock, which is 35 minutes away from now. So please, this is your time to ask the questions. Crime is serious. We were trying to facilitate it for you. We have a question in the back.
Good night, everybody. Mr. Braggs, Officer Braggs, the last time we had a community meeting in Windsor Park, we talked about millions of things. But it come back over and over, the same thing over and over. We have a planning problem. You got here, it's not planning. We have a DES problem. We've been complaining a long time about roads, car parking and roads, but they're not doing nothing. Why we have to wait till something happens and we come to a meeting like this and it gets the information, but we all do nothing with it? That things are getting mad, and the people are going to take matters in their own hands. 2021, I was working Cayman, and I just came from work because you could see me in my working clothes. I had a cement mixer up there. I paid $5,000 for the cement mixer. The cement mixer was stolen. You hear what one told me? The CC camera not working. Until now, not one policeman answer me back about my mixer. Now I got to put food on the table for my family. What I must do? I was working with this lady. I had to leave the job and a couple dollars I had on the job because I couldn't finish the job. So put on yourself in my shoe and tell me what I must do. Officer, I come back again. I kind of very disappointed. Why we have to wait till 2024 to get community officers in our community in a time like this? I don't take that. That's a big insult. That is a very big insult. But yes, when we get the information and give the police them, they do nothing with it. So what we must do because our hands are tied. Thank you. It's a million more, but I can give somebody else a chance.
All right, thank you for that. Thank you for those comments. Not, and while let me apologize for your situation and the officers not getting back to you. From the CCTV perspective, I would say that we have a very rigorous CCTV program. Now, do they go down at times? Yes, they do. And certainly we get them maintained and back up running as quick as we can. Yeah. But the RCIPS itself is not responsible for maintaining the whole CCTV program. Okay. Before I hand over to Superintendent Williams, though, I want to just comment quickly on Mr. Adams' a comment as well. Are we being ineffective? I wouldn't say that we are. $6 million in recovered illegal drugs. I would say it's significant. Can we do things better? Certainly we could. So I will certainly take this opportunity to say if we could talk after the meeting, that we would be more than delighted to get some advice from you.
Yeah, so my comment about 2024, let's be real. We can't just hire people and send them on the road. They have to be trained, yeah? So the training starts in August 1st, 2020, in 2 weeks, sorry, and the officers will be graduating by November at the very least. So we have to ensure that when we put officers out there, they're trained. One of the big things is recurrent training, and that's a big thing for me, because legislations always change, policies always change, the demographic always change, and we have to keep up to the time. So as I said at the beginning, as the new superintendent in charge of the unit, one of my biggest priority is to build it back from where I got it. It's 11 officers, and as I said, I work them day and night, and they can tell you. But at the end of the day, I have to also bear in mind their welfare. They have families. They have to go home as well. They have to take their rest. So that was the genesis of my 2024. And I'm being honest and open as it is.
Question from the audience.
I understand that the community policing is short of staff. But we cannot expect the community police to do everything. Community police would put in a report of drugs is selling in this area, illegal alcohol, illegal numbers is being sold at a certain location. I do not expect that beat officer to deal with that. I expect that beat officer to deliver that to Intel, and Intel deal with it, but I also hold that beat officer responsible for following up to make sure that the work has got done. You understand? Because we have a lot of speakeasies in our communities, and our police officers, including the commissioner, is aware of where each and every one is located. Cayman Crime Action Committee personally took the commissioner on a tour of these areas, took the DG on a tour of these areas, and that been years ago, and nothing has been done. We still have the speakeasies in our communities. We are feeding in information of the drugs selling, where the drugs are being sold. We shouldn't have to anymore, because then each officer on your force knows exactly where these drugs are being sold. My question is, what next? What do you have on your agenda to address this?
Before, so ma'am, before you came in, I highlighted where a number of arrests as it relates to drugs have been made in recent times in some of those areas. So I can go over again a number just this week and last week in the areas of Matfield Square, twice this week in the Windsor Park area. There have been some drug arrests made. Okay, we've also done a joint operation with work, CBC, and RCIPS as it relates to 12 Kennedy Drive. So yes, I can highlight these at this point. Now, do we have all the answers? RCIPS, no. But we are working with other agencies that where the superintendent highlighted that we got a number of persons who do not need to be here off the island. And whereas where we can't get them prosecuted on certain offenses, there are avenues where a person of questionable character should not be here. So these are some of the ways that we are looking at also dealing with these problems. I start off by saying to try and prosecute our way out of some of these not only criminal but antisocial behaviors. We are going to be repeating it and repeating it. So we have to find other avenues or other ways that we can deal with the problems, and these are some of the ways that we are trying to tackle these problems using other avenues.
Thank you, Mr. Yearwood. We're going to go to a question that is in the back, but before I do that, I wanted to address a question by Mr. Adam about the coastal option protections that are available via technology. I'm going to use this opportunity to get more specific to my manifesto, where I committed to investigating in those things. And funny enough, interestingly, we were just talking about that in government, but I didn't even realize the severity of the expense to implement such a thing. So you have highlighted Bahamas and other jurisdictions that have done it. And when I got the basic idea of costing, it was mind-blowing. So what I've asked, though, and I don't want to, everybody may have a different view on the value of how important something is. Somebody may say 50 million is too much. Somebody may say that's enough to protect our streets. So what I'm going to be doing is asking for us to get an analysis report on what the police believe would be an adequate amount to give us better security of our borders by sea, and what the cost of that would be. So we can have a discussion with the public to say, it costs X amount. Based on the priorities of the people, do you think that this should fall on the top rank of that priority from a cost perspective? Because if I said to you it's going to cost us $75 million to put in the necessary satellite systems or infrastructure, would you then say to the government, no, you shouldn't have done that, you should have put it in education or put it within something else? I'm not suggesting that's what would happen. I'm saying that we need to have the conversation because we don't have infinite money. So we have to do the analysis first, find out the costing so we can put that in the priority listing, because it's a lot more expensive than most of us may think. One comment that came in, and we're going to go to that question, which is, and don't get mad at me for it, it's just a comment that came in, and it says, what are we doing to assist the police with policing matters. Not me, but somebody basically is saying, well, what is our role in helping the police in respect to this? Where was the question in the back? Before we go to the comment or the question in the back, I just want to comment on that comment there that came over the media. That is one of the messages that we keep saying, or we keep putting out there. We have to do this together. Everybody's looking at the police. What is the police doing? What is the police doing? There are friends, family members out there that know who is committing these crimes. What have you done to make the Cayman Islands safer? What have you done? Yeah? So I'll put that question there. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone. I was not here earlier, so I don't know if this has been broached before or not, but I am a walker. I go to walk on the track in the mornings. I leave home like about 4:30 to go walking. I want to know what we as even females or males or whoever's going to go walking can do to protect ourselves in the event we get attacked. I keep saying, why are we not allowed to have pepper spray? I'm going to be honest with you. I mix a bottle of spray with bleach, everything else in it, and anybody come at me, I go and spray it. Because we have no other way of protecting ourselves. And for years, I've been saying it, and I'm going to keep saying it. Why are we not allowed to use pepper spray?
All right, I think the question was answered earlier, but I wanted to add on to something I think Mr. Denny said earlier. He mentioned the firearm side of it in terms of protecting yourself, but I also want to mention section 14 and 15 of the Penal Code. That allows you to defend yourself. Yeah, every person has the right to defend themselves. So the most important thing is that if you feel that your life is threatened, or not necessarily your life, your person, so whether somebody intends to injure you or you believe they will injure you, you have the right to protect yourself. That is the most important thing. And that is enshrined in law. That doesn't go just for people with firearms. It goes for everybody. So in relation to the discussion on pepper spray, I think that was answered as a wider issue, and it's something that we will discuss at the policy level and police level. So thank you for your question.
Another thing is too, why is it that when the beat officer from my area in Windsor Park, when he or she is not there, there's no one covering for that individual? Because I can tell you, I am in my house and my windows rattling like, say, I outside the club. When the cars passing with the loud music and my windows rattling, and when you make a complaint, nothing not done, the beat officer don't answer because he on vacation. And I need to sort them things out, because suppose something seriously happen, who gonna protect us?
Okay, all right, we discussed that earlier as well. The problem that we have is that for each beat, we only have one officer at this time. So what our plan is actually for each beat to have two officers. So when one officer goes on leave, you still have an officer that will be able to respond to your calls. But I think maybe in your area today, was that in her area? What was your area, sorry? Windsor Park? Okay. I think as recent as today, we actually prosecuted someone for loud music. So hopefully that's the same person that is causing you discomfort.
Good evening. In regards to the speakeasy, nowadays, or sell illegal, where a person sells liquor without having a license. It's more now than it ever was. Everybody is selling everything. Not just liquor, but clothing, shoes. Everything is out of hand now. There's no more control. But to me, you all know I'm a bar owner, and I have a license. I have 3 licenses. And bar owners go and get retail. We can wholesale. We can also go to the retail to based on prices. But what has happened with the retail license, there's no checking. So a person that don't have a license can go and buy 24 cases of beer. There should be some control there. If you don't have a license, what are you going to do with 24 cases of beer? And you're not in the bar business. Are you
Good.
Are
Very,
you,
very good question.
Are you
Something
seeing?
that
Not. Let me stand up. In 1987, when I got my license, when you went to the wholesale places, you had to take your license until you were established there as a customer. Nowadays, I'm there, and everybody's coming in. I don't know who got license from who not got license. So I think some restrictions should go back on both areas. If you come into the retail and you want a case of beer, that's understandable. But if you're going to buy 10 cases, 24 cases, where is the license? Nobody should be able to buy those amount of beers from a retail place. So Mr. Member of Parliament and Minister, those are the things that the government should be looking at. Changes of how the licenses are operated. And I think that will stop the illegal part of the in the speakeasies. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Good, very good point there. That is something that we will certainly take up with our DCI, who has that role and responsibility. Before we move on to the next question, I just want to say we got 17 minutes more before we're going to wrap up. But the key component from the comments there by Ms. Burke is a serious one that we're not considering. A commercial crime is still a crime on somebody because it's taking away financial opportunities from others, which is just as good as theft. So we have to take those things serious as well, and it is something I will take back to our members for discussion.
I would like to address Superintendent Brad when he asked the question boldly, what are the people in the community doing? How do you expect the people to report issues, crime, when your officers are telling the people that Remelia made the complaint? There is a breakdown in communication. There's a breakdown with trust with your officers, sir, and the public. No one trusts the police to give a report. That's why few of us are not scared to come to that station or call that station and say, this is happening, or someone reported this to us, because there is no trust. You all need to work on building back that trust in our communities. Then you can ask what we, the public, are doing.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that. I'm aware that there are a number of cases where some people in the community have actually called people and told them that they were going to call the police, and then they call the police, and then when we get there and we deal with the matter, then that person goes back to the same person who called the police and say, you call the police. I think you know what I'm talking about. So if you're going to tell someone that you're going to call the police on them, then call the police, then they must know that you call the police. So we don't need to tell them that. We don't need to tell them that. They already know. They already know. Yeah.
Question.
Okay.
Sorry, sir. It personally happened to me in Windsor Park. One of your officers went back and tell a fellow officer that I called the police. That officer was no longer with the RCIPS, but told that officer that it was Ms. Welcome who made the report against her. And sir, to be honest, that is why a lot of our local people are not helping the police when they need help, because of that same thing.
Well, we know that you're often one of our customers, so, and thank you. No, I say that in a real serious way.
thank you for all that you do. You're an advocate for the community, so thanks and kudos to you.
Question in the audience. Sir.
Evening, officers. I got to be on TV, so okay. Hi. Question. To answer Shari's question earlier on, I did get a call from Mr. Hall today and advised me that the person that was making all the noise at 5:30 in the morning had been issued tickets and been warned, and if it happens again, then we must report it. On the note about police officers telling the public who is making the calls, sometimes it does happen, I'm not going to lie. But at that stage, I really don't care, because if they come and ask me, I'll tell them I made the call myself, and I give them my name straight up when I go to the station and make a report. But the thing is, there's a lot of things going on in Windsor Park, and I understand that it's a district where, especially down at the park area, there's a lot going on with drugs and stuff down in that area there. But the thing that we need to bear in mind as well, and I do have my running in with the police department a lot of times, but you got to give them credit. Because if they go out there and people are disrespectful, like for instance, after the carnival, the incident on the public beach, they were rude and disrespectful to the police officers. If they have to manhandle them for any reason to protect themselves, the first thing the crowd going to say, oh, the police is excess force, this, that, and the next thing. You got to leave them alone, let them do their job. Because it's going to cause a problem. Yes, I'm not saying that a lot of incidents that happen isn't extreme, but at times, they also got to do their job to protect themselves and to protect us. Because we can't blame them for every single thing. And I'm just saying that because you got to give credit where credit is due. But at the same time, I've seen plenty of things happen. Tickets are issued, people go running to their MPs, and the tickets are dropped. Politics and policing do not match.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, not this MP, but anyway.
Thank you.
I want to, I'm going to take 3 more questions because we are, just so the public is aware, we are going to be re-airing this public meeting tonight on the local TV channels and so forth. So we're trying to keep the meeting to 2 hours. So we got another 12 minutes left. So we're going to take 3 more questions and then we're going to do a wrap up for tonight. And I want to thank everybody who has tuned in online and those who are here in the audience. Mr. Adam.
Thank you very much, sir, and thanks all the officers for being out here tonight. In regards to the disposal of cars, and I listened to the debates in the House when, unfortunately, that law was passed about preventing young people from being able to buy an affordable car. And with the age of the car, I just let everyone know, my vehicle is a 2000 Toyota, which drives quite well. So the way that they went at it is a wrong way. And that vehicle will outrun and will last for many more years as well, 200,000 miles. Okay? So the year had nothing to do with it. Now, $1,250 is collected when these older vehicles are imported and the smaller ones. And I didn't hear that discussion. I don't hear the discussion in what Ms. Doreen is talking about using private sector trucks to take it up to the dump. What I'm hearing is they don't want any more than 15 a day. The used metal business, we can take them, but there's a whole mess of nonsense that's gone on with the export of the metals from this country for years. That whole contract and the export, I won't get into it, but I do know some of it, and it's not honest and it's not nice. Why they haven't been leaving the island. Okay? As regards the vehicles parking and the overcrowding of population, well, of course, our population growth is total madness, and we're importing slave labor, which adds to the problem. Nobody can live on $1,070 a month. And we've known it for 20-odd years and done damn all about it. And even now, wait to see when this report comes out, what they're actually going to do. Under works, immigration, they keep changing the names of these various government institutions, call it what you will. It don't matter to me. It's still ineffective. These institutions and entities that we have, you have to give accommodation. I rent some properties for people on work permits. I sign. But I know they don't go around and check how many people living in this place. They talk about database. That is so far down in the basement that it went into the sewer. And so you have this works, immigration, call it what you will. I even forget, I don't even remember. I'm getting too young for that. See, I don't get older, I get younger. Still a 19-year-old. And if they knew, and when you see a 2-bedroom house on Crew Road, they advertised in the press, 3-bedroom can sleep 12 on Crew Road. This is a nonsense that's going on. The degradation of our society in this country. People are making millions by employing slave labor. And that keeps Caymanians down. Even the professionals, that reduces the salaries that they're paying Caymanians. What people earn in the hospitality industry now is what they earned back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I've discussed this with Mr. Bryan, Minister Bryan, on the subject from long before he got elected. Because the tourism industry is built on the backs of slave labor.
Well, Mr. Adam,
I will stop at that. I had other things. I'll sit down.
I don't necessarily want you to stop because I want
Yeah.
you to finish what you were thinking. I just want to give you the good news
okay.
that in respect to that slave labor approach, I think most people will be quite happy with what we will be coming back with soon, because you were right, we have not been paying enough, and particularly those ones in respect to helpers that we've been talking about for so long with no pension.
Yes, sir.
I think that the public will be proud of this administration for what we will end up with. So just give us a little bit more time. We're almost there. Continue.
Okay, sir. And as regards overall, the broken window story is so important. That's what people have been talking about here tonight. If you see a broken window, you got to fix it, you got to repair it, and you take care of the small things, and the big things will fix themselves. And that's a lot of where we are. As regards some of the crime at night, I was on the drug, hold on, what do they call the board there that they have on National Drug Council. And when certain politicians, in the name of tourism, said that we should extend, not you, in the name of tourism.
Please make sure you clarify it was not Kenneth Bryan.
Certain politician said that we should extend the drinking hours at night because we needed to do it for tourism. I'll never forget Mr. Thirstfield. He said, what? He sat on that board. They produced a report which has been now lost. Even the National Drug Council can't find it. He itemized the additional hours, the cost it was going to be to our society, the additional crime that we were going to have in all these hours by the late hours and what was happening. We look where our murders, our injuries, and all of these things and keeping you guys busy. And when you look at the cost of every drunk drive accident because everything goes on the legal aid to lock the people up, the medical care and all that. These are the things. The biggest problem we have here is alcohol from a drug standpoint. God bless you, sir. I'll sit down.
Thank you so much, Mr. Adam. We're going to have time for one last question, then we're going to take closing comments from the Honorable Minister Turner, Mr. Brad, who's leader of the Royal Cayman Police Service, and myself, and then we're going to wrap it up. Ms. Burke in the front.
Thanks. Years ago, when I was growing up, the police that we had, we built a relationship with the police. Let me stand up again. We change police often, and they're always from overseas. Everyone knows me. I try to tell them who I am, and I want to know who they are. I make it my business because I'm in business. It's not easy because you can see that they're not used to someone coming up and try to relate to them, you know, be nice and, you know. But we have good police. And I have built a relationship with many because I'm in business. So in order to get, if you don't want to go through to the police station, and I know I don't call there because for the same reason, but the relationship that I have with the police, I don't have to go there. I don't. I get their number, I call them when I have to. So I would say to people, and I would say to the police, build a relationship. Build a relationship with us. And then you will get information. Maybe what we're telling, what we say mightn't mean much to us, but when you dissect it, it means a lot to you. And then you can go from there, right? So all the new police, not dancing police, he's part of us. Build a relationship. Get to know the people. Caymanians, Caymanians are friendly. I know you have different people in here now. And they don't want to give their full name. They give these ally names. But if you talk to people and make that relationship, I think we will have a better community. Okay? Thanks.
Thank you so much, Ms. Burke. We are going to squeeze in one last one. You have to say to Mike, because the listening audience that are here that needs to hear exactly what you're saying.
Good evening, panelists and everyone else. I have a question. Well, I have something I would like to say. Don't feel no way when I say it how I say it, okay? The elephant in the room tonight is the escalation, right? In crimes pertaining to guns and robbery, what is the RCIP in terms, what is the RCIP in terms of the solution? And me personally believe that the CCT camera is the solution.
All right, thank you so much. That was a good closing place. I think that we're going to give the Honorable Minister Turner an opportunity to say closing remarks, then Officer Brad, and then we're going to I'll have a few words before closing tonight.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. It is indeed a pleasure to be here this evening to provide this opportunity for the residents, not only of the Georgetown district, but also the Cayman Islands, because with the streaming, we have seen the activity. We have addressed as much questions, statements, and concerns, and actually they're still coming in. So I know along with my friend, we are willing to continue to engage with any questions or concerns that may not have made it within this allotted time. Feel free to send it, your email to prospectmpoffice@gmail.com. That's in collaboration with my honorable colleague and friends to definitely get your concerns addressed as soon as possible. And that includes the question for the Prospect Red Bay community to let the person know that your question and request was actually seen. The request was whether or not pedestrian crossings could be placed within the Grand Harbor Red Bay Prospect area. So again, that's a collaboration. You will notice some of the concerns brought up here tonight requires joint government agencies, collaboration, and definitely as your elected MPs and ministers, we are the ones who push and drive and work collectively with the civil servants in order to make this a reality. On behalf of the people of Prospect and Red Bay, again, send your questions and concerns, 33 Marina Drive, we're there, and we are willing to work in collaboration with building these community relationships. I know we recently got a new community beat officer, and they're warming up to that officer. We can only work as best as we can, but collectively, there is a shift that is needed, and I think better relationships can be forged with the police, but it has to be reciprocal. this culture of Caymanians and those who we are inviting to serve our country here, it has to be a joint approach. And it takes collectivity in order to solve these crimes. Thank you and have a good evening.
Okay, thank you, Minister Turner. For the lady that asked the question last, we did go through those discussions earlier, but we'd be more than happy to meet with you after the meeting so you'll have a full appreciation for where we're at. So I just want to thank the two ministers for having us here this evening, and I want to thank the officers that are sitting in the audience for actually taking the time to come as well. They have been working actually more than 12 hours today, as they do on many occasions. So thanks to the team. Just want to say to the audience, though, that your concerns are heard, and we have made notes, and we will work collaboratively with our other partners. I just wanted to highlight many of the issues discussed here today is really not the role and responsibility of the RCIP, but we often take it on our shoulders to take it forward. So we will work with our other partners, whether it's within government or in the private sector, to try to resolve the problems within the community and make the Cayman Islands safer. So thanks for your contributions. We will continue to build partnerships with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Officer Brad. Thank you to all the members from the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service. I'm just going to do a quick summary as to some of the currents that we heard tonight for those who were listening, so you are informed that we have heard from you. Some of the issues of concern is more CCTV, more community officers in the community, as well as beat officers. Also recognizing that it's not only the police authorities that are responsible for some of the policing of crimes. For example, DCI or National Roads Authority or DEH or any other entity that has authority under law can also be solution-based in respect to this. We've heard concerns about noise pollution that continues to happen. Also, whether there should be a review on our drug consumption approach to the fight against drug crime. Vehicles removal is a major issue that needs police intervention by way of a deterrent from these actions happening. There was a big concern tonight that was repeated 4 times, concerns about trust with the police, which is a constant ongoing matter, one that I recognize that has been a discussion for some time. This is the unfortunate problem of having transient workers within the police force. We need to have more Caymanians in the police department. And I hope that more Caymanians would apply for it, for those roles. I know there is stigma. I know that, well, the pay is actually pretty good. And I know it's sometimes difficult to ever think about having to police the people that you love. But it's like going to military, you're working on behalf of your people. It's an honorable job to know that you keep your society safe. So I encourage people, particularly those who are just coming out of school, to think about wanting to be in the police force. There's honor in that role. With that being said, I want to leave our contact information. If anybody from the Georgetown Central area or anywhere in the Cayman Islands for that fact want to reach out to my office, the number is 936-4040. And the conversation tonight wasn't only about Georgetown, but the greater whole. And I thank everybody who tuned in via the Government Information YouTube channel and the Government Information Facebook channel, and those of you in the audience. Thank you so much. God bless you, and have a wonderful evening.